Okay, I'm going to go over some stuff today that happened between last night and this morning about these earthquakes. Getting information, all have to do with these tunnels in the United States. Colorado and New Mexico probably being one of the biggest places where the tunnel infrastructure is at. But there are larger cities and stuff like that, like in California, and I hadn't really looked too much on the East Coast to see how much is over there, because I'm not really interested too much of what's happening over there, because most of that's centered right around this area. Seeing as I'm at the base of Cheyenne Mountain, one of the biggest underground complexes in the world. Grew up listening to the woodpecker out of Russia, and then watching them build this tunnel when I was a kid, and then some other things that came into there that kind of leads to the infrastructure going into these complexes, plus all the stories with Native Americans, the Navajo, the Apache, and Anasazi, and the whole nine yards. We're living in the four sacred mountain ranges that all these people are being abducted into. One being in Duluth, New Mexico, and another one off of Mount Blanca. Now, the one in Mount Blanca, you can probably look this up in Caves of the World, but evidently this was something that was done by the Spaniards. The furthest that it's ever been explored is 1,800 feet by experienced spelunkers. Just not too long ago, I probably think it's about 2000 or something like that, but they couldn't go any further, and it's kind of like a stair-step kind of complex that keeps going down as far as they can go. But the story is through Native Americans that had mined this stuff hundreds of years ago and passed down through verbal languages, stories, that the mountain range, that wet mountain range that goes from New Mexico all the way up into the Cheyenne Mountain up here, which is the wet mountain range. But evidently, from what everybody is told about the story about that mountain being hollow, and there's a river that runs through the center of it, down as far as it goes. But they've been mining gold out of that mountain range for 100 years, and they've found Native American bodies and stuff down there, skeletons and the whole nine yards, but nobody's ever went down that far. But these are the places that are spiritual portholes that people have seen spirits came out of. And then you have other places along that, but that kind of connects with Cheyenne Mountain in the modern days. So if you start connecting these mountains and all these tunnels and everything else coming from Denver to Colorado Springs, down the wet mountain range into New Mexico, and then down to the Test Range and the Sandias down there, and all, it's just complex. But now we have these tunnels coming from going north from Cheyenne Mountain into DIA and into Wyoming, and then into Idaho, and then I guess they were headed out towards Seattle, Washington, and everything else down there, where they had just recently started working a tunnel system with the biggest Big Bertha is what they call her, the biggest tunnel machine in the world. It's supposed to do like 7 miles a day. So you can imagine how far they've been doing this and how long they've been doing it and how complex it is. And that's why we're talking about underground warfare, where these people are, special forces are going in there and having to extricate people out of this place that have been kidnapping our children and abducting people for rituals. So here we come back into that story of the time machine, you know, the Eloi and the Morlock. How could that be so simple back in the 60s to be as complicated it is today? And it's like, it's supposed to happen way in the future, but it only happened just a couple of years. Really? Wow. They've been stealing for us for a long, long time. This is a really complicated situation. So now we got the military going down there, and if you just seen it the other day, there's been, and just within the last week, explosions. I'm gonna call them earthquakes because everybody's seeing them on seismometers. Like Mary Greeley, she's in Wyoming, and she studies the caldera there in Yellowstone, so she's always got her eye on the seismometers all over the world, and I kind of watch her quite a bit. But I noticed that there had been several earthquakes in the Salt Lake City area, doing about 6 to 6.5, and then another one in Idaho just the other day, and it was like in Pocatello. So this is where I'm going with this, is that I'm thinking that they're actually working on moving into putting explosive in the caldera in Yellowstone. That way they can cause havoc on the planet on the outside and take over, because they're all underground and got all the food and everything else. They had been buying up all the supplies of survival food from all the survival companies for years, and there's a shortage of it, and that's why we're having food shortages now, because all the stuff that had been stockpiled is gone. Now this is going to keep on going. You're not going to have any more if you unless they start bringing it out from these complexes. But anyway, the 6.5 the other day is one of the tunnels that they were working on, tunnel warfare. This is what's really cool, is that if you don't think that Trump is in there doing this, just watch his tie, okay? His tie tells a story, a code. He does code with words, he does code with his hands, he does code with numbers. He does. The guy's a genius. But check out his tie colors. Pink is the color for child and infant abduction. Orange is for hazardous material. Red is for fire. Black is for bomb threats. Black's for bomb threats, and then let's see, then we got gray for disasters. There's another one down here. I don't know what the heck I got that down there for. Cardio arrest. Yeah, I think that's still in the black, but if you see them ties, you can see that he's sending the code to messages what's going down on the things that they're working on now until Easter. Hopefully it'll be over by then, but there's other things going around. You see all the military on alert down in coming out of the West Coast and the Atlantic, and then there's supposed to be some on the Pacific here too, but they're planning on these drug runners and everything else. Is like, wait a minute, okay, now if you've seen the video prior to this one, the one is that they got a submarine backed up into a tunnel, and they're using this submarine to power these cities that are supposed to be like 40 miles wide and hold like 400,000 people in it. These complexes are huge, and I never thought of them being that big. All I think is about Cheyenne Mountain. You got a tunnel with just a couple of guys, but if you look at Cheyenne Mountain and the way that one's built, it's still kind of huge, but they're even bigger than that. And I know looking at Cheyenne Mountain, I know how big it is, but these ones are bigger than that. Now they're bringing in nuclear subs. Where did they get that nuclear sub to power these cities at? And that's when we started hooking up with this other stuff, this other information that comes in there. Evidently, we're looking at the Russians having done this. They just came out this morning looking to arrest Sweden. They had arrested a couple individuals with white supremacists. Having to train white supremacists in the United States. So there's a little tie right in there. Having to think about what's going on there too is, they may have a dirty bomb and moving into the United States. But then if you look at it there too, all the people are down in Argentina, which was the state that most of the Nazi sympathizers and the Nazis and everybody else moved to. So that's where all that comes from. So we're worried about them coming up, and maybe they're the ones that came up with the money for this sub, and whose sub was it, and how'd they get it. And but anyway, so the State Department let that information out this morning. We got terrorists on the run. So then New Green's came out, and he's let out some information that they're going to hold China. They're going to have to answer for this coronavirus misinfo that everybody's living off of right now. This coronavirus is a joke, man. It's just a tool that they use to get you to have fear. Then you start looking at this doctor that's supposed to be a genius, standing up in the podium right next to Trump, and his little cohort right next to him. He's a hidden hand member, which means he's a Masonic Illuminati. If you know what a hidden hand is, Fuchi. That means they put their hand in there. You can see the prince does that, and all the cabal that are involved in that. They hide these little signals so everybody knows who they are, and they get busted. Their little symbols tell them exactly who they are. So this is what's going on right now, and man, I just can't tell you enough of everything that else is going on, but they're talking about this 10 days of darkness. It wasn't 10 days of darkness, and it's supposed to be dark to light. They're bringing people out of the dark, which means all the kids and all the pedophiles and all that other stuff, into the light. They're taking them out of the tunnels. And there's a book. It's not dark. It's Darn Kiss. That's what this book is about. Is about bringing out a gal named Susan Riddle that was 5 years old, that was brought into slavery and put into the bowels of the earth, which was hell on earth, and that's exactly how she lived. And that's a story that is kind of tying into all this other stuff that's going down. But just wait, man. We've got even more to go. We got Iran, the Iran war, and I've got the dates for this. Let's look at something, Washington Monument, which is a phallic symbol for the cabal in the United States, and they're all over the place. But when you look at that, that's the Washington Monument. That's Vesica Pisces. The Pisces are being in the center of it, which means, the symbol for Christianity, the fish. And then the two circles on the outside, that brings them into there on the Vesica. The conjunction with there was going to bring down the Christian symbols and all that other stuff, Christianity, and take over. They're going to try to kill all of us. There's more and more going on every single day. I mean, there's more stuff today that is still coming out. I had stuff come out the other day that, it's being shown all over the world, So, we have to get this information, get it out quick. So I'm still waiting to see what happens today, and it's usually in the evening when this is going to start happening. The president always says 6 o'clock is a dangerous time. So watch out for fast movers. If you see fast movers, that means jets, F-35s and all that other stuff. They're bugging out from one place to another to watch to see who pops up and pops out of nowhere and trying to escape this this system that they had set up. But that's all I'll leave for now, and I'll get another video out probably this afternoon or maybe tonight. Like, subscribe, and send all this information out to your friends. This is what's going down, not this stupid virus. Don't pay attention to that stuff. That's just a tool to keep you from looking in the direction that you need to be going, and that's the war that's going on right now. All right, thanks.